Hi there, music fans, and welcome to another one of my polls and another top 10. And today I thought I'd give you my top 10 favorite Shadows tracks. And yeah, a couple of people asked me on some of the cliff polls I did. Do I like the Shadows? Do I have a favorite Shadows track? And yeah, absolutely, of course, I love the Shadows. I've loved the Shadows as long as I've loved Cliff, and yeah, they've been a big part of my life. And yeah, but putting the top 10 of my favorite tracks together was a lot more harder than I thought it was going to be. So what I did was I just broke it down just to the singles because they've had some amount of fantastic album tracks. I think it'd be nearly impossible to put my top 10 together. Maybe I will at some stage, but today I'm just going to stick to the singles released by the Shadows. So here's my top 10. I won't say too much about them. I'll just run through the top 10 really quick. Number 10 is The Frightened City, which was the theme tune to film released, starring Sean Connery. Absolutely fantastic track. Absolutely love it. I love them playing it live as well at the final tour. Absolutely love The Frightened City. Great track. Number 9, Shindig. Absolutely fantastic track. I don't think it was a big a hit as some of the others around this time, but I absolutely love Shindig, so it's number 9. Number 8 is FBI. Absolutely love FBI. I think I prefer the live version of FBI to the actual single. I actually prefer listening to the live version. I think there's so much more energy in the live version, but the single did get released and was released and it went to number 1, so still a classic, and it's number 8 for me. Number 7 is Man in Mystery, the follow up to Apache. Absolutely love this track. Yeah, so much energy again. Yeah, somebody told me there's a mistake in it. There's a little mistake in the track, where you can hear them making a mistake, and it always kind of bugged the Shadows that was released with the mistake in it. But I think the mistake actually adds to it, dude. I think Shadows fans know what bit I'm talking about. But I absolutely love Man in Mystery. Just a great track. Number 6 is Atlantis. Absolutely beautiful track. Um, Written by Jerry Lorden. I know it's one of Hank's favourites. He said that as I went to see Hank in 1995 on tour, and he introduced it as one of his favourites, Shadows tracks. Atlantis, absolutely beautiful. And I know it was also Brian Licorice Lockins. That was his favourite track of all the tracks that he recorded with the Shadows. Atlantis, absolutely beautiful. Number 4, no, number 5 is The Savage, Norrie Paramore. And interestingly, the Shadows didn't like this track when they recorded it for the movie The Young Ones, and they were happy with it just staying on the soundtrack and just being a soundtrack uh, song. But while they were on tour, Norrie Paramore, who actually wrote the track, released it as a single, and it wasn't a number 1, but it made the top 10. And the Shadows complained about this at the time. I think it was the only time they complained about anything that Norrie Paramore had done because they considered him a genius. But they weren't too happy with Norrie Paramore releasing it as a single, and Hank was never too fond of playing this one live. I don't think he ever played it live up until that tour I just mentioned in '95, where he played it with his son Ben live in concert, and it was absolutely fantastic. And I think Hank has said since it's grown on him, and he absolutely loves the track now. And it was featured, of course, on the final tour, and it was actually featured on the Cliff and the Shadows final tour as well. So I think he's gotten bored with the track now and actually loves it. Number 4 is the Shadows' biggest hit of all time, Wonderful Land. Absolutely beautiful. It was a big number 1. I think it's their biggest selling single. I think it sold slightly more than Apache. Absolutely fantastic track. I think I could be wrong, but I think this is the longest spending number 1 of the 1960s in the UK. If somebody wants to correct me, I think it is one of the best selling singles. I think it outsold even the Beatles in the UK in the 60s. Wonderful Land. So number 3 is their debut single. Well, not really their debut single, but the big one, Apache. Absolutely fantastic track, written by Jerry Lorden, and absolutely love it. So yeah, it can't not be in the top 10, Apache. So number 2 is a track released in 1964, and it was on the soundtrack to a pantomime they did called Aladdin and His Wonderful Lamp, and it's called Genie with the Light Brown Lamp. And I know a lot of Shadows fan wouldn't have this as high as I have it, and I don't even think the Shadows would either, because they didn't feature on the final tour. It was the only disappointment when I went to see them in 2004 for the final tour. It was the only track that I was disappointed they didn't play, because they played everything else that I wanted to hear. But Genie and with the Light Brown Lamp, I've always absolutely loved that track, and for a long time it was my absolute favourite Shadows track. But at number one, I have a track that was released on another soundtrack, the Wonderful Light soundtrack, and it was written by Bruce Welch, and is Theme for Young Lovers. Absolutely beautiful track. Always loved it, and it's my number one Shadows track. So there's my top 10. Frightened City, Shindig, FBI, Man of Mystery, Atlantis, The Savage, Wonderful Land, Apache, Genie with the Light Brown Lamp, and Theme for Young Lovers. Absolutely love all these tracks. Can't get enough of them. As I say, I probably would have bought a lot more album tracks if I was doing everything by the Shadows. But there's so many album tracks. Maybe I will get around some stage to do my favourite album tracks by the Shadows. But that's my top 10 favourite singles by the fantastic Shadows.